So our next speaker is Marija Dankulov. Marija is a statistical and computational physicist and assistant research professor at the University of Belgrade. Her primary research interest is statistical physics of complex systems. In recent years, Marija has been studying the structure and dynamics of different social groups and how social interactions combined with cognitive elements shape the process of collective knowledge building. Welcome.
Hello. Besides being a scientist, I also work in Innovation Center. Actually, I'm a head of Innovation Center of Institute of Physics Belgrade, so I come also from the other side. And I'm very much interested how we do innovation, how we innovate, and actually my research so far and my experience show that this is a pretty much universal process. And actually we heard that from Francesca this morning. As a young scientist, I've had this idea about innovation, which actually is very much in the line with Oxford Dictionary, how they define it. So it's something new idea, new method, new device. And then I turned to the dark side. I became a scientist working in Innovation Center, and I started socializing with industry, people from industry, and with people from these big institutions that kind of shape how our societies develop. For instance, World Bank. And they gave me another definition. Some of them are listed here. As you can see, industry has a very narrow definition of innovation. So they don't think that everything that you invent is actually innovation, but that's something that can be useful, that brings money, and that kind of changes their relationship with their customers. What we realize is that these industries and these big banks and big institutions also shape our policymakers, they influence them, they also shape how we fund science, and they have a huge influence on these important people in how we develop science today. What we agree on, both sides agree on, is that innovation is vital on how we develop our societies, and it is important for our sustainable growth. Where complexity sciences can help actually is to understand this process, to try to explain it, and to actually show that it's much wider than how the community or the industry sees it. You heard this morning from Francesca that actually innovation is very universal. It's not something that we do just in patents, but also how we discover certain novelties. It's a very universal, and you can see here one example of quantitative proof of this. On the left side is a paper from the Journal of Royal Society Interface, where people actually were studying how we introduce new technologies to mark patents and how we combine different technologies to kind of mark patents. And as you can see on the right side is actually something that we studied in the same year. We looked at question and answer sites, stock exchange sites, where people actually discover new knowledge, and we studied how this is done. And if you compare these two pictures, you can see a Hipps law that is actually very similar in this sense. This shows us, this is one quantitative proof that actually creative process is a very universal thing, and that we can actually help with this. Complexity science can help to quantitatively study and describe this process. We know that this process is very much social, so you cannot just put it outside of the social system and don't care about this, okay? It's important for rise and fall of communities, and we are currently studying with David about this. And what is a nice thing is that we have many online communities that can actually help us. There is data that you can find online that is publicly available that can help you study this process and that can serve as a model systems, like mouse is in the case of cancer. And what is important thing that I want to point out is that we have to tell to policymakers, we have to tell to these people from the World Bank and from these big institutions that actually before you want to guide the process, you actually have to understand it. Thank you.